You're talking calm abiding when you say
Well,
inner, or what?
any kind of practice that you would go for refuge to.
Oh, going
What
for refuge.
kind of practice would you do to go for refuge in those types of situations?
Okay, so you're feeling lonely, you say, like you're kind of down when you start. Perfect. There's no, you introduced it by saying you heard we have to have some kind of mind when we
Joyful.
approach practice. The mind, when we approach practice, is the mind you have. It's back to Pema Chodron, start where you are. So we don't want to, it's interesting because we do have that phrase of fake it till you make it, so we can
Make
think,
sure you know you're faking it.
yeah, that's true. But that fake it till you make it is, oh man, okay, I can see this, see if I can say it. We work with whatever shows up. So one of the most, I love this prayer. It was written by Colin Rinpoche. The translation I know is by Kim MacLeod. When the confusion of the 8 concerns has been thrown over, those are the things we're always worried about. My happiness, my gain, my this, my that. When you cut that and you have genuine concern for others, but this is the piece that's more apropos to your question. Whatever appears can be an aid on the path of awakening. So you sit down with your loneliness. Hello, loneliness. That's what you're sitting with. Or you sit down with your sleepiness, or you sit down with your resistance. We don't try to, one of the wonderful things I think about this practice is there's no avoidance. It's a humble, honest meeting of whatever is there and being with it. And if you start your session taking refuge in Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, you're not just there by yourself. This is not Margaret pulling herself up by her bootstraps. The minute we say, I take refuge in, and I always add Guru, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, then I'm totally touched in. My teachers, the Buddha of the past, the present, the future, Buddha's all around, Buddha in here, Buddha in the people who made my cushion, then the Dharma is, the materials, the truth and the path, and then the Sangha, the people who are also on this path with you. So the mind already knows I'm not alone. We're never alone. We think we're alone, but we're never, ever alone. We're surrounded by countless beings in your neighborhood, in the city, in the whatever. So you say a refuge prayer of some kind. You can find different wording than the one that we say, but this doesn't work. But one that brings you to know I'm here relying on this whole lineage, thousands of years of people practicing, and then you sit with whatever is there. Loneliness. What's loneliness made up of? It's very, very good to look when you sit down. Okay, I'm in a mood. I had to learn this the most about resistance. I don't want to be here. I don't like this. I think it's a waste of time. So off goes these thoughts. You just sit with them. Hi, you don't want to be here. Okay. You don't have to be here. You could get up and leave. No, I want to be here. You work with whatever's there. We can't say, oh, now I'm going to be joyful and sit down, when that's not what I feel at all. And as you sit with it, you begin to see it's made of thoughts and emotions and bodily sensations. What are those? How long? What are they? Thoughts can't even find them. Is the loneliness 100% solid, consistent, never changing for 30 days? We can feel that way because I really say I have big, solid loneliness.
I am lonely.
I am it. It's never going to end. And I'm not making fun of it because I get it too. But you really just be with it, watch, just like a bodily sensation. It will not stay the same. The pain in your knee, no matter how much you try to make it stay the same pain, it won't do it. It's cold, it's hot, it runs up the side, it tingles, it stops, it feels like I'm going to be crippled. It disappears. Then it shows up over here. So part of the difficulty that I run into that might help is that I'm not looking in a relaxed way, in a compassionate way, and I'm lacking awareness. I'm foggy. So we just keep brightening the awareness. Yeah, I see. Yeah, I see. Yeah, yeah. And watch the stories, don't get caught in them. This is so horrible. This will never end. I don't have anybody who really loves me. You can watch those, but they're just thought, emotion, sensation, thought. It's all fine. Then be sure and dedicate, renew. So the brackets that help, the bookends, are the refuge prayer and a dedication prayer. And the other thing is, I love this part, and it's been emphasized more here at KCC than anywhere I've been. When you sit down, no expectation for the session, no fear. Just do it. Just do it over and over. 10 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day. Just do it. And when you get up, don't judge it. That was a great session. That was a terrible session. That was a mediocre session. That's guaranteed to undermine the practice. So I'm seeing if I got anywhere around what you were asking.
That's good. But I was just kind of working with the idea of going for refuge not necessarily being relief, at least not in the short term.
A relief?
A relief. When I think of refuge in other ways, and you talk in the beginning about the ways that people go for refuge.
Mm-hmm. To false things.
Yes,
yeah.
But they're getting some relief.
Momentarily.
But in this way, you're actually working, you're practicing, right? And I think that's right, but it's a different way of looking at refuge for me, because it's not necessarily a relief.
Yeah.
In the
Well, relief is an emotional response with maybe some thoughts. So for me, that goes back again to, what do I expect when I sit down? I don't expect to feel relieved when I sit down. I don't know what's going to happen when I sit down. One time it may be totally joyful, and the next time it may be just a constant battle with some scene that I'm trying to crunch out, So no, it's relief, and yet there is I don't know, for me there's after a lot of refuge practice, saying the refuge prayer over and over and over and over and over, which can be one of the nundros, something grows about your reliance on it. maybe it's reliance more. What do I rely on?
What's consistent?
What's consistent, and what is it when I come to it, whether I'm angry, I'm confused, I'm sleepy, I'm stupid, I'm resistant, I'm graspy, it always is solid. I mean, one analogy and a metaphor, and I kind of like it, it's like a really good parent. You know, you can come in and have your tantrum. What did someone say last night? A friend of mine, we were talking about something, and she said this young guy used to say to his mother, I don't believe in love, and I don't love you. And she would spin, that's okay, I don't need you to love me. I know I love you. That was like, wow, I don't need you to love me. I mean, that's, I think, how the Dharma is. It doesn't need anything from me.
It doesn't need us to be joyful about it all the time.
No, nothing. Just come as you are. But I think we do get caught. I know I get caught looking for some kind of, I just want to get out of this pain.
It's not feel good all the
Emotional
time.
pain, physical pain. And that may not be a bad thing. I mean, that's a motivator. But we aren't going to, it's not going to come about because of just wanting it. Practice, practice, practice. Just show up on the cushion over and over with whatever's there. One Lama used to say, set a big tea table. We'd say, well, what if this shows up? What if that shows up? What if that shows up? He'd say, set a very big, nice, beautiful tea table, and whatever shows, hi, yeah, have some tea with me. You know? Or another one would say, let them dance before you. Let them dance. Let them just do their dance and go on. You know? It's just like, it doesn't have to get hard. We make it hard. I make it hard. But then I get to, the more I sit, the more I see I'm making it hard. There's nothing hard. Any other thoughts or ideas about
I
that?
actually would like you to speak a little bit about making it hard. I don't really have a question. So much as just kind of something that I've been mulling about in my head the past few days in regards to suppression and pretending, willful ignorance, pretending things are other than the way they are, even if I already know better. Ever since I was little, I've had a very strong aversion to expressing anger.
Yeah.
My parents would always teach me to always try and be polite to people and be nice to people no matter what all the time, even if you're acting it and you want to, and you know, no matter how you're feeling on the inside, always present etiquette. So I have a very, very old habit of not expressing anger and then going about my life acting like I'm not angry when I am. And I've gotten so good at that I don't even notice I don't even know when I'm doing it half the time, most of the time.
Oh, yeah.
So when I look, there's nothing there, even though I'm just hiding what's there from myself reflexively.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of recently seeing this, and I'm glad I'm seeing it, but it's sort of like, what do I do with it?
Yeah, I'm glad you're seeing it too. That's big. Big to see.
Because, for a long time I thought, I don't have a problem with anger.
Yes.
I have a problem with anxiety and depression because I feel those every single day, and those are all around me. But there's another stratum that I just got so used to being subconscious, something that I didn't actively work with and deal with because I didn't know how.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden, feels like.
Yeah, well, you're seeing it, and that's big. And what I've been noticing lately about my own seeings that way, I don't always need to do anything right away, like you're saying, so what do I do with it? Just keep seeing it. And a lot can unfold from that seeing, a huge amount. Sometimes when I see something and then I start doing a bunch around it, I mess it up. So, just seeing that is really big. That whole issue of suppressing versus expressing is interesting. To me, it leads into ethics because you're describing something where you got in a habit of suppressing so much that then you didn't even know yourself what you felt. So now it's suppressed even from your own consciousness, but it's come, now you see. So this is good. But this expressing thing, it's very good to express things, to not suppress to ourselves and not suppress to in appropriate ways. I was just talking with a young friend who explodes a lot at her parents. This is kind of a niece of mine. And she was defending expressing, to not suppress, like people who just they're not real in their emotions. And I tell my parents I hate them when I feel like it. And I was just listening to her, and just saying, well, what happens then? Just looking at the consequences. So it's always trying to stay, there's two ditches,
I think
too much suppression and inappropriate expression. But it sounds like you're over there, way.
For me, the suppression undercuts and leads to the inappropriate expression.
Oh yeah, and that's a very good insight, because that does. We tamp it down, and explosion comes. Yeah.
I'm not even aware of when it's arising because I'm suppressing it. I don't even see it when it's there.
So when we start seeing it, we start heading up to the middle of the road out of the suppression ditch, and that can lead to some relief in the explosion ditch too. Just keep going that way is what I'd say. I think it's really quite good. And this is something we all work with, reclaiming these parts of ourselves that we've cut off because of, I don't know, Western psychology will call it survival patterns or coping patterns. I think Buddhism more calls it like, I just keep coming back to these, somehow connected to the 8 worldly concerns. Like I suppressed it because I wanted to avoid this or to get this. I wanted to avoid blame. I wanted praise. I wanted to avoid bad reputation. I wanted good reputation. I wanted pleasure, not pain. So those 8 pretty much sew it up if you learn those 8. And that's a lot of how I created my coping patterns. Seeing them is huge. What else to add?
The whole notion that there is this thing between expression and suppression, this to me is just like, well, we've learned that somehow, that these are 2 poles. And from the point of view of practice, I think it looks different from a more classically Buddhist perspective. The point you have to think like, well, what's the purpose of either suppression or expression? And then you get into like, well, and then what would be the kind of the perfect art of expressing my anger so I didn't get into too much trouble, or
skillfully expressing
so that I manipulated people to get them to do what I wanted, or
That's what we do.
in a certain way, all expression of emotion is manipulative. all expression of emotion is manipulative.
As soon as we express it, the reason we're expressing it is
Yeah.
because of the.
Yeah, it comes when we're coming from a point of view of kind of a selfishness and kind of that personal agenda. Everything is colored by that. So whether we're expressing, whether we're suppressing, whether we throw those terms out the window and come up with some other paradigm for this, it's all coming from that place. And so from the point of view of kind of the Bodhisattva vow, if you sort of step into kind of the frame of reference of the Bodhisattva, and then what is that? What would you do with that energy? Then expression then is for the benefit of others, whatever it is, whatever the you can say whatever the energetic state of or appearance of that expression, whether it's very very kind of soothing and calm, or whether it's very energetic and capturing, whatever that expression would be, it would come from that place. So it's a different frame of reference.
Yeah, no manipulation on behalf of the self-centered
Yeah.
attitude.
Yeah.
The benefit, who is benefiting is the important thing.
Well, but there's always the two benefits, self and other. It's not this lopsided thing.
Mm.
But we kind of practice in a lopsided way because we're so good at the kind of approaching it from this kind of this misinformed notion that we're actually doing it for our own benefit. We're not really doing that very well, and that's kind of the thing about the expression versus suppression. It's like, well, I'm going to try and find the spot on the dial that's going to be really good for me. But there is something. I think one of the tests or challenges with anger is being able to find some kind of intelligence in the midst of it. Finding some kind of clarity. If something like it's sort of like something shocked me, and this feeling emerges. Is there any clarity in that? Is there something that's actually beneficial to say? Not just, I feel this way, therefore I'm sort of going to vomit a little bit to get it off my chest. Is there some clarity? Did something become clear? Is there something that in that sort of energetic state that I can actually express that will be a benefit? That's a pretty big challenge, and it's one of the reasons it's such a. You say, well, you don't start out playing with that kind of energy. You start out with a kind of the bodhisattva. You start out with kind of cultivating the ability to express and communicate kind of in a peaceful way. I would say the pacification. It's easier to do that and be clear that you're actually doing something that is beneficial for yourself, because it's kind of like not wrapped up. It's not. That it's kind of there's some benefit for others. But any kind of energetic expression, any state of energy of expression, could be done with that same basic paradigm, you could say, that motivation. But it's just much more difficult. Usually by the time we get to the state of wrath and anger, it's all about number one. And that's the only deal that's going on. But because anger does come up, then we can treat that as an opportunity to check. Like, where could there be some kind of clarity in the midst of this? So it's not just
Bad.
I had an opportunity once to experience what Bill is saying when I was at the Abbey, and my teacher was took me out for a walk, and I thought it was going to be a really fun walk.
Oh, so I thought it was a
thought
metaphor.
I thought this was nice. No, she took me out for a walk down the road, and man, my hair was singed by the time I came back, and I was just blown away because I had never experienced someone showing such clear anger, and I was not harmed but waked up, and it was just astonishing. I got back and I didn't know what to do, say, or think. I was like shocked, and one of the nuns, she must have known what had happened. Maybe she had one of these walks, because Tarpa said to me, so you went to on a walk with the little children? I said, yeah. I said, is my hair like? And she said, yeah, kind of. And you know, we just laughed, and it was kind of like, how does she do that, like, so lovingly and so fiercely? I mean, anybody else who said any of those things to me, I might have hit them.
Wow.
I mean, it was like that, and yet what she said was spot on. It was something I was not seeing about myself. And then, you know, when you sign up to live at Abbey, you give over permission to be trained like that, you know, and it wasn't, I mean, it was after a couple of years, so it was like, wow. And I think it's really difficult to be able to do what she did, but part of it is the energy that builds off of anger. It's so clear sometimes, you know. It can be clear towards I want to kill them, but it's got clarity, and it's got energy, you know. So the idea is eventually the Bodhisattva can use that in a very potent way for good purposes. Well, she knew how to do that. I wouldn't. I don't know. Maybe that could happen sometime, but so far I don't think it's happened. Usually I think I'm just blasting people if I'm doing that. But it could happen. So, yeah, Al and Vincent.
Just real quick, what if you're the recipient of unskillful anger yourself?
Yeah.
What is a skillful way of working with that?
What do you do now?
What do I do now?
Yeah, that you consider skillful.
Well, I
something.
kind of just like try to hear what the person's saying, like, because it tends to reverberate for a while afterwards.
Yeah.
And I try to hear that there's something. Try to see there might be something of truth in what the person is saying, but the energy that it's coming at me is not feels very aggressive.
Yeah.
Not in a good way, and it's happened multiple times with the same person, and so I'm trying to work through my own I don't know, reactive pattern, habitual patterns, you know.
The response pattern.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
good.
I guess trying to have compassion, but at the same time, in a school environment where this is happening, there are certain rules about how you treat other people, and there are processes in place if it's feeling like a hostile work environment or bullying is happening. There are policies about that. So
do you call on those?
what's that?
Do you call on the policies?
Well, I am considering it.
Oh, yeah. You know, one thing I've done, and this is all on the relative level, but that's where we live most of the time. I mean, is if I have to be around the person, it sounds like you do. You don't have a choice.
Well,
Yeah. So first you can look at that.
Intermittent.
Like how much do I have to be around, and am I exposing myself more than I need to? You know, checking that out. But if you have to be around them and they're not completely intractable, you know, where you can't talk to them during a calm time, I bring it up in a calm time in a not when neither of us are. And one thing you can do is write something rather than talk. And you say, you can use nonviolent communication, which I find helpful when you speak this way, or I need respect, I need cooperation, I need care, I need safety, and I'm curious what you need. But I don't, each of these are so hard to give people anything more than very general advice, because it totally depends. I don't know, the situation. But there's all kinds of general things, like talk about it in a calm time. Keep working on your reactions, because that's your main garden. If it's getting out of hand, go get some help from the HR person or the principal or whoever. Because those kind of things are so complex, it's much better to kind of do in a one-on-one and really find out the details.
Yeah.
Yeah, because pretty much anything general spaghetti might stick to the wall or not. Yeah. Working on your own reactions is really good, really huge. And I have found when I'm in those kind of situations, it can it surprised me how much, if I work diligently on the cushion with loving kindness toward that person, or in the moment while they're saying all these things, I'm doing mantra inside.
Yeah.
Whatever, some space can slowly happen, and again, things can shift.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a pressure cooker
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah.
And the latest incident involved a very, very intense student situation that I had to relay the information about her student that had happened with me, and it was very intense. So that probably contributed to her just being stressed and responding the way that she did,
Yeah,
So
we
trying to
don't
have compassion for her in terms of what other things were at play for her to respond that way, besides it's a personal attack on me.
Yeah, that's good. And then just watching the other end is, I can get so far over imagining what the person is, why they're doing something, and I actually realize I don't know.
True.
But still, no matter why they're doing it, I can have that compassion. This is suffering. I'm suffering. They're suffering. Students suffering. We're all in a boat suffering. And just let that be known. But one time at work, the one thing that really turned things around for me was get help, get more help, get more help, get more help. I ended up talking to the HR and a lawyer, my lawyer, county lawyer, counselor. I just kept getting help till, because it was really a terribly difficult situation that even began to feel and be, I think, unsafe. And I just kept, get help, that helps good, but not enough, not enough, not enough. Finally, it was enough. And it was like, oh, whole thing just went like that, unfolded quite nicely. But I just kept checking everywhere. What would you do? What should I do? Can I do this? Is that legal? Is that possible? What is the union thing? Just till it worked.
Yeah.
But that's all the relative work in the world. The work on the cushion is I sit that person down with Vajrasattva is what I do. The deity that's just purifying, and I say purifying everything between us. Not like they're bad, I'm good, but the whole situation, just light, kindness, love, just see it going, all the darkness going. And I've done that a few times and walked in expecting things to still be hard, and they weren't. And I was like, wow, that's pretty interesting. I don't know how that worked, but
I have to say, and what was I carrying in the door before?
yeah, what did I let go of that I was unaware of? We're so unaware that we're doing the dance.
That's.
Cynthia had something, but, oh, go ahead, is this on that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's, the piece of really sort of checking in to see what we're doing. Sometimes we talk about this as though we'll try these things and then it will work.
Yeah, we don't know.
It may not actually work in some ordinary sense, but it will always feel like it's worked to a certain extent if we really work with what we're doing.
Yeah.
That will, we can tell, oh, there's these 3 degrees of freedom that I found in this by not falling into this habit pattern so strongly that wasn't helpful for me or for them, whatever it was.
When these situations come up, I feel like I kind of go into meditation mode almost, like I can try, that's what I'm trying to do at least, is to almost see it like as phenomena arising, like as if my own thoughts are arising. And I'm not sure if I'm going into some weird robotic, like if I'm turning into some sort of like, almost like numbing out kind of feeling.
But
Like,
I think, well, we don't know and you don't know, but I think the work is not then when the person's yelling at you.
no,
The work is, we're talking about work on the cushion consistently.
right,
Yeah, when you're not in that intense
Okay.
situation. That's where the space gets created
okay,
more. I mean, what you're doing, that's good, I think. Well, I don't know what she experiences. She might go, wow, what's she doing? But the work is the consistent work of a loving kindness, clear heart, seeing she's suffering, you're suffering. There's nobody right and wrong and all that. Yeah. I think, we are at time. Okay, good. Thank you, everybody. Wonderful discussion. Let's dedicate.
By this virtue may I quickly realize Mahamudra and establish all beings without exception in this state.
Thank you. See you next week.
Thank you.
Or Wednesday for Generosity.